Episode 117 of Australia's #1 marketing show. Listen in as I chat with one of Australia's leading radio producers about how to treat your customers as raving fans, a simple strategy for generating new ideas, and some very smart ways to use social media.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
G'day everyone, and welcome back to Australia's #1 small business marketing show. I am your host, Timbo Reid. You right there, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, are a motivated small business owner who wants to do crackingly good marketing. And we are brought to you by the very good folk at Net Registry. And we are part of the Flying Solo community. So hello to you, all you solopreneurs out there in the big wide world. Hey, welcome to episode 117, guys, of the show. And I am excited to bring it to you because, again, backing right up from last week's episode where we had Mia Friedman of Mamma Mia fame, 14 million monthly page views. Hello. How good was that interview? Great feedback, by the way. You know when an interview hits the mark because the amount of commenting and sharing of that interview, of that episode, was very high, and I know how much you, the listener, enjoyed that. But backing right up, we have got a great guest today in Sam Cavanaugh, a very old friend of mine, and Sammy is now very high up in the biggest radio network in Australia, and he's going to talk to us about this concept of taking listeners and turning them into raving fans. And it's just as applicable in our small businesses as it is in a large radio station. We cover a whole lot more. Back to that in a minute. Few things to cover up front, guys. Bit of stuff that's on my mind. I just want to say a big thank you to Ted, who sent me sort of a lovely testimonial in regards to Net Registry. Remember, Net Registry are the sponsors of this show, and if you need to get any of your online marketing sorted, then they are the people to go to. And Ted went to them, and he just sent me a lovely note saying, "Hi Timbo, would like to let you know that while I was considering several companies to get our AdWords and SEO sorted, I decided to go with Net Registry because of your affiliation. It was that association that gave me the confidence to call Sam." And Sam is one of the senior guys at Net Registry who you can have some time with, and he will help you get your online marketing sorted. SEO, AdWords, web design, hosting, domain name registration, you name it. The guys there can really sort you out. Go to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, click on the banner, the Net Registry banner on the right-hand side, and it'll take you to some exclusive listener packages. They are very good. Hey, some exciting news. Jessimae is on board the small business marketing virtual team, the virtual marketing team. Okay, so I spoke at a conference in November last year, and Jess was the scribe, okay? She had a whiteboard there, and she was capturing everything I was saying in visual, in pictures and words. It's sort of like it was a live way of putting together an infographic, and it was fantastic. So, here I am speaking, and she's turning into these pictures and words. Don't know how she kept up, to tell you the truth. She has a business called Think in Colour, and I approached Jess afterwards and said, "Hey, wouldn't it be great if you could do that for episodes of Small Business Big Marketing, where we take the spoken word and turn it into something visual?" And she's done her first one. They're called scribes, and they're very, very cool. Not only has she scribed the interview I did with Tom Dixon from Will It Blend, but she has also videoed herself doing the scribe and done it in fast motion, and it's fantastic. So you can view the scribe if you go to the Tom Dixon interview, and I'm going to do this real time because I forgot to check what number interview that was, but it was a very, very recent one. Here I am doing it on the hop. On the hop, there he is, Tom Dixon, episode 114 of Small Business Big Marketing. It was the Will It Blend episode. So I am going to drop the scribe that Jess did into that episode. I'll also drop it into the show notes for this current episode, plus the video, Plus, I'll put the video on YouTube, etc. Now, this is really exciting. It adds another layer to the show, but just as a marketing lesson, this is all about repurposing existing material, yeah? Getting more out of it, squeezing more juice out of that orange, blood out of the stone. And what it's also allowed me to do is have a good reason to open up a Pinterest account, okay? Because up until now, I haven't had a Pinterest account for the show. Didn't really see a need to, but I've opened one. And obviously there's going to be a Pinterest board for all the scribes that Jess does. But it's also then encouraged me to open up a Pinterest board that it contains a photo of every past interviewee, which I could have done anyway, but I just kind of didn't think about it until I had the need to really consider Pinterest with these scribes. And in fact, the idea came from someone who I'm about to talk about in a minute, who I've also added to my virtual marketing team. We are getting things done at the Small Business Big Marketing headquarters, let me tell you. More exciting news, I have opened up a Meetup account, meetup.com. If you go to meetup.com /small-big- small, start again, it's meetup.com /business-big-marketing. I'm having a brain fade, it's summer. I have started a Meetup account. Haven't set up the first meetup yet, but my intention this year is to have some live meetups, certainly in Melbourne, because that's where I'm based. And when I do travel, actually then scheduling a meetup, whether it be, somewhere interstate around Australia, or if I have any overseas travel, also organising some meetups, because I'm just so keen to meet you, the listener, and bring us all together, bring the tribe together, and just increase the power of the Small Business Big Marketing brand and the tribe. So that's exciting. Go and join the meetup and you'll be the first to know. And I will put a link on the website, which is being redone, still in the process of redoing the smallbusinessbigmarketing.com website. Last point before I get into Sammy is that I've got a question for you, because one of the things that's been happening to me over the last couple of weeks is that I made a kind of concerted effort to be working on my business during this quiet time over summer. And that is all about just, ticking some boxes of stuff that I hadn't done previously and asking myself, who do I need to put on my virtual marketing team to get stuff done? And part of that was asking myself the question, like, what am I not good at? What am I not good at? What don't I have the skills at? What don't I enjoy doing? And then filling those gaps. And one of those gaps was filled by Mick, who's approached me. Mick is a long-time listener of the show, and I'm going to call him Mick the Mechanic, because that's exactly what he is. Not a car mechanic, but a mechanic type person, like that wealth dynamics profiling of Roger Hamilton's that we've spoke to a couple of years ago. The mechanic type profile is that person who knows how to get stuff done, get under the hood and fix stuff and do all the technical stuff. And Mick has been added to the Small Business Big Marketing team as my mechanic. And that's why, Pinterest is set up, Meetup is set up. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes in regards to linking social media accounts the way they should be. WordPress plugins that, weren't there or are there, and just getting stuff done, that I hadn't been doing because didn't want to, didn't enjoy it, no good at it. And so I guess my question to you is, who is missing on your virtual marketing team? Have you got a virtual marketing team, Number one. And number two, if you have, is it filled with the right people and enough people? Because, there has never been a better time to market a small business, and part of that is having a virtual marketing team. The virtual marketing team is that concept of surrounding yourself with marketing specialists somewhere in the world who focus on one particular area of marketing. It's at its most basic, it's outsourcing, but it is about putting together that team that allows you to focus on what you're good at. What I'm good at and what I enjoy is creating content, is about doing the interviews, and adding this virtual marketing team is freeing me up to get stuff done. So there's a bit going on, isn't there? Okay, Let's get stuck into this interview. Sam Cavanaugh, Sammy introduces himself pretty much once we get into the interview anyway, but he is the national executive producer of the biggest radio network in Australia. He's responsible for some very big shows. He is going to talk to us about how to turn listeners into fans. He's going to talk to us about idea generation and the process they go through within the shows to put together great ideas for each of the shows that he produces. Interestingly enough, this whole concept of turning listeners into raving fans was inspired by a consultant that he brought to Australia to talk to many of his on-air radio personalities. And that consultant worked very much one-on-one with the biggest Irish band going around. Can't say who that is. Cannot say who that is, because Sammy didn't say who it is. But one of those big Irish bands, you know the one I mean? And she came out and did some great work with their on-air radio personalities all around this concept of listeners into fans. We also talk about repurposing content, listener generation, and I pose the question, what should we call fans of small business, big marketing? Let's come up with a name. Talk about that more in the episode. I do interrupt the episode halfway through because Sammy touched on a sensitive topic that needed to be ripped out of the interview and replaced with another example of which I give. So I step out of the studio for a couple of minutes and share an example of a deep dive mastermind member in which we used Sam's idea generating process. Enough! Let's get over and see Sammy Cavanaugh. Enjoy, guys. See you on the other side. Sammy Cavanaugh, welcome to Small Business Big Marketing.
Thanks, Tim. It's good to be on this side of the microphone.
Hey, it is.
For the first time.
Well, explain what that means, because you are... What is your title in the Austereo network?
It is I'm the National Executive Producer. Which sounds awesome, doesn't it?
So, like that is full of awesomeness.
It's got the word national in it and the word executive in it. Did you notice that?
Yeah, just need corporate in there somewhere. Well, so just to us novices, what does that mean? Because you spend a lot of time with people who are behind the microphone.
That's right.
You're on the other end.
And in front of the microphone. So I look after essentially, so the Austereo network, Southern Cross Austereo as we're now called, has the Today stream, which is Fox FM in Melbourne, Today FM in Sydney.
We should talk in a global way, just the big radio stations of Australia.
It is. And then the other network we have is Triple M Network, which is another national network. We have stations in every state and regional market in Australia. So we've got 80 radio stations now.
And you are the national executive producer of those stations.
So I look after shows, talent, producers. Obviously not all shows and all talent because that would be too hard, but I look after, essentially I'm responsible for developing new talent on air as well as developing new talent, finding new producers and
keeping
helping
old talent happy.
Yes,
so
there's
we're
a bit
talking
of that.
Hamish and Andy, Jules and Fifi.
Yep. So Merrick and the Highway Patrol, the Grill team in Sydney, our Triple M breakfast show there. This year alone, we've probably launched about 10 new probably 15 new breakfast shows around the country. So I'm involved in setting those teams up.
So when you say look after them, what do you mean as a producer? Always, because this producer-director thing always flips me over. So when you say look after them, what do you mean?
So that's a good question. In radio, and the reason I love radio is the producer works directly with the talent and the content. There's no, rather than in TV where you sort of have segment producers, executive producers, senior producers, network producers. In radio, it's a really one-to-one relationship. So a producer, is responsible essentially for the content that goes to air. They have to work directly with the talent to get the best out of them. They have to, they run the show essentially from to use TV language. They run the show. So they are responsible for every element that involves. So,
So it's looking after people, it's coming up with ideas, it's creating content, it's keeping the energy. It's great. Love it.
It's fixing a lot of problems too. Like the radio is teamwork, and with any team, particularly creative teams, there's always challenges and difficulties. So producers have to be really good at managing those issues and just bringing out the best in their talent, you know.
Man, you're saying, like, I know you're a bit concerned coming on and doing this interview because I'm not a marketer, I'm not a small business owner, but like as I've said to my listeners, you know, like there are so many learnings we can get from outside the small business world from people who have completely different skill sets. And I know what you're about to share is going to be exactly, there's going to be some gems in there, Sammy.
Oh, good.
So, well, you say all good. I'm relying on you.
Yeah, okay. Well, pressure then.
Yeah, correct. So,
do we need drum rolls?
Go if you've got a drum roll handy. Like, please feel free to.
Okay.
You know, do you want me to buy some time while you
what
go
about something like this?
Yeah.
And then we drop the gem at the end.
Yeah. What do we got there?
Shit, pressure.
Yeah. Here we go. You're a producer with a sense of humour.
I reckon you might edit that out.
No, we don't edit here.
That was a big build-up to nothing.
Okay, Sammy, let's get stuck into this because you've coined. I love people who coin phrases, but you coined this concept of fans, not listeners.
That's right.
Before you explain that, let's go back and tell me the story of how the penny dropped around that concept. Fans, not listeners.
All right. So early this year. I connected with a woman who worked for a very high-profile international band. Very big.
Yeah, really big.
Yeah. And you know, through my job, I sort of made contact with her, and I just, you know, on a bit of a punt, I just said, why don't you come over here and I'd love you to do some work, like you work with bands. I'd love you to just take some of those philosophies and work with some of our shows. Some of our radio shows. And so she came out here and we did some workshops, and a lot of amazing stuff came out of that. But one of the things that sort of really hit me between the eyes was she kept referring to fans. And she kept saying, you know, your fans want this, and what sort of fans are you trying to attract, and how are you looking after your fans? And I just went, that's such a simple but important transition for us to stop thinking about listeners, because we talk about our listeners of a radio show. That's how we reference our audience. But most of our shows, in particularly the successful ones, their content is much broader than radio content. Their content has to live online. It has to be on social media. They create events. They create cross-media relationships. So their content ends up on TV, in magazines. So by thinking and referencing fans instead of listeners, it just opens up much bigger opportunities for the sorts of content that you're doing. And
listener, the concept of a listener is very passive. That's someone who's sitting back listening.
Yeah.
And not engaging.
That's right.
Whereas a fan is like, you know, there's a book, Raving Fans, in marketing parlance, which is like people who are like, Apple have raving fans, evangelists.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the shows that you produce, there would be evangelists within the set of fans.
Yeah, no, someone said to me the other day, and it's interesting, no one sticks a TV brand on the back of their car, but people still put radio logos on the back of their car.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think that people have an intimate relationship with a radio show, and but gone are the days where we can expect someone to be sitting in a car at 8:10 and hear something that we do. We've got to make all that content work a lot harder for us. And the Hot 30 is a great example. That's our national night show. They are essentially programming a radio show every night for an audience that has never owned a radio. I mean, what 16-year-old is going into JB Hi-Fi and trying to buy a new radio?
Yep.
Like, it just doesn't exist anymore. So they talk about doing a show on Twitter before it even gets to air. So they get hashtags and trending topics happening before they're even on the air. So their day and their content, they start pushing from midday to get those kids excited and trying to, like, one last night was amazing. Their whole campaign for the afternoon and into the evening was, what the story was, there was a great news story where a famous DJ had been kicked out of a club for playing the song The Macarena.
Right.
I think I've got the story right. It was a gossip story that was doing the rounds in the morning. Now, one of the female co-hosts, Mel, loves that song. So the whole campaign was, if we can get the Hot 30 Twitter account to 100,000 followers, we will play The Macarena as the number one song of the night. And it worked.
Worked like that.
Kids just went bananas. Everyone got bought into it, wanted to affect the change, and it went bananas. So plenty of the kids would have been experiencing the Hot 30 brand on Twitter and not necessarily listening to the show.
The whole fans, not listeners, I'm really interested to understand once that penny dropped, how it altered the way you packaged up your products, your shows. From a small business marketing perspective, I, for a long time, even in big business marketing, often talk about target audiences.
Yep.
And to me, forever and a day, from the time I heard this concept of a target audience, it felt very lame and very passive. To think of someone who's going to buy my product in the terms of a target audience was just rude.
It's very clinical.
Clinical. It's like an audience. What they're sitting back waiting and watching for us to. Yeah. Like care factor of 0.
Exactly.
So I kind of for many years worked with had a similar kind of thing and worked with this concept of best mates. Like who's your brand's best mates?
Yeah.
Who's that group of people that have the highest propensity to want to buy from you as a small business owner? When you call them your best mates, what I've found, and I'm interested to know what you found in now thinking them as fans and having your on-air talent think of them as fans, is that a best mate is someone you know intimately. You know what problems they have that you can solve.
Right.
You know how they feel about certain, in this case, purchase decisions. You don't worry about the demographics. You don't worry about, your mates, what age, gender, occupation they are. They're your best mates.
Yeah.
You worry about them more in a more sociological way. Yeah. So from your point of view, tell me how, when the penny dropped, how that changed the way your on-air talent approached.
Well, I think, like I said earlier, a lot of our shows were thinking much more broadly about their content. Like most of our shows don't just go, right, well, there's the idea and here's the radio component. Most of our shows are going, okay, here's the idea, here's how we're going to push it on social media, here's how we're going to do it online. Is there, maybe we'll create a little mini event out of it. Maybe we should contact that magazine, they'd be interested in that content. But we're still talking about listeners, whereas fundamentally changing it to fans meant all of that stuff is just as important and is part of the conversation at the origin of the idea rather than as, okay, so we did this cool thing on air, now what do we do with it online? Or, that after the fact kind of thinking, whereas now it's every idea has to stand up, and I guess I just keep saying, in radio, one thing, I think what's protecting radio a little bit more than other old medias like newspapers and television is we make a lot of content really cost effectively every day. We generate, and I'm trying not to swear, that's why I have to keep phrasing. We generate a shitload of content. That's what we're good at. Now, thinking about fans, not listeners, is saying, okay, for every piece of content you make it work as hard for you as it possibly can. And I can give you just a quick example from this morning. Merrick and the Highway Patrol, which is our national drive show on the Triple M network, had this great idea. Merrick had this thing he'd wanted to get off the ground for years. He wanted to build a Carbecue.
A what?
A Carbecue. He wanted to build a car that had a barbecue built into it.
Yeah.
So you could drive it anywhere, and then you just flip out the barbecue out the back and cook your barbecue. So. Anyway, he went and spent literally the entire marketing budget of the show on building this car. He bought an old, I think it's called a Ford Landau. I'm not a car person, but it's the car that Mad Max drove in the Mad Max films. Got it fully specced up and looked awesome. Matte black finish, Highway Patrol logo, Triple M everywhere. And this thing looks amazing. Like literally this barbecue.
Remembering this is radio, so this is so far it's theatre of the mind.
Exactly. They had this great story arc as he's told his team after the fact that he spent their marketing budget on this car, which shocked them to say the least. Then the car then goes around venues and work sites and places where people are gathering and cooks a barbecue for fans. So on the air go, right, this is where the car is, go and get yourself a free sausage or steak or whatever. People are booking the car out to do things you can rent the car. If you want the Carbecue to be your wedding car, just go on the Highway Patrol website. So you're getting in front of new listeners. I mean,
what you've done is this, marketers would call it repurposing your content. So you've originally had an idea of a Carbecue, So now you've gone, there's fodder for our radio show that we can talk about. Now we've got this car going out on site, so it's face to face.
But in front of people who aren't listening to the radio show. That's the thing. I reckon we're always preaching to the converted if we're only thinking about listeners.
Yep.
When you're thinking about content that is outside just listeners, you're bringing in a new audience, people who might not have ever heard the Highway Patrol, but this awesome car rocks up to your work site and starts cooking you sausages.
So then there's just like social media. Wow. This is what social media is made for, to share stuff. You've got to have stuff to share.
Well, here's the kicker this morning. One of the producers sent the story to the Huffington Post online. They wrote an article on it. The Kelly and Regis show in America, which is like their nationally syndicated talk show. It's now Kelly and Michael, but it's a really famous brand that's been around 20 years, and it has about 20 million viewers a morning. This morning they ran a story on the Carbecue.
Oh, wow.
So now back in Australia, all the media's going, wow, Merrick and the Highway Patrol just got on this show whose television audience is more people than live in this country.
So what that's exactly right. So we've got radio discussion, we've got social media, we've got on-site, we've got, overseas publicity. There's probably YouTube videos, I'm assuming.
But the thing with overseas publicity, and people go, why do you worry about that? Those people don't have surveys. But it just adds a little bit of stardust to it. So now everyone in Australia is going, well, there's another article. So tomorrow morning there'll be press in Australia talking about how this Australian bogan, Merrick Watts, has got his idea up, and now in America they're talking about it.
Yeah.
So it's just...
And you've got an income stream because you're renting the car out. Who manages
Well, we're not. We're giving it away.
Oh, are you?
But,
is it competition?
Yeah, no, you just register, and if we can get it to you, then you can go for it. But so,
brilliant.
I mean, look, there's a lot we can do with thinking about, getting it to the next test match in Sydney, so it's there and people as they're on their way in or out or at lunchtime.
As if a car manufacturer's not going to put their hand up and say, we'll manufacture a line of Carbecues.
Well, do you know what? It's really interesting. We had a lot of issues selling this idea to clients. A lot of clients just couldn't get their head around... maybe it was too visual, I don't know, but there was a couple of big clients that were lined up that were close and then just sort of chickened out at the last minute. And look, it's a difficult market out there at the moment, but I can't remember the name. I should be able to... the Australian Meat or...
Livestock Association.
Yeah. So they said, if you can cook steaks on this thing, we're with you. The guy on the American... Their whole tagline is chuck a steak on the barbie.
Yeah, right.
That's their tagline. They're on board. They're the principal sponsor of this idea. But here's the thing. On this show in America this morning, the guy actually read out the tagline, chuck a steak on the barbie.
Hey? So the Livestock Association will be all over you.
I hope so.
You just got a new sponsor. So, Sammy, you told another story which I'd love you to share with my listeners, which is, I'm going to age myself here, but Reese Maston. Yeah. So I love it, just the way things are changing. So back to this concept of fans, not listeners.
Yeah.
Tell us about Reese.
So Reese is an amazing young man. So he's 17. He won X Factor, not this year, last year. In Australia. So, 17 years old, has had a couple of really successful singles, but he is just the king of Twitter. So his whole fan base, he speaks to them, 10 times a day on Twitter.
And it's him.
And it's him, and it's in his pocket, and he's doing it. He's doing it himself all the time. He talks about there's never an off cycle. He's always pushing content to them, giving them what they want, photos. His fan base really cleverly, he orchestrated in such a way that they came up with their own name. So they're called the Little Rockers, and they identify as that. And they, when he releases product, they...
Small Business Big Marketing listeners, come up with a name for yourselves.
And your fan base. Yeah. Your fan base.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Right. I'd love that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So they... when he has product, they try and get Reese Maston, or like the hashtag, which might be his new single, or the album I think was called Beautiful Nightmare, hashtag Beautiful Nightmare, get it trending worldwide. And they just go, bang, let's make that happen. So they push his content for him. But a great case study he said to us was, and I might use a little bit of poetic license with this story, but...
Don't let the truth get in the way of this story, Sam.
I never do until I'm on the record. But... So Sony Music had, he was releasing a DVD. Now, just most record companies would put all their above-the-line marketing budget into releasing albums and singles rather than DVDs because they just make more money. So Reese's idea was, why don't we just get the 10 most socially engaged fans on Twitter? So by that I mean, like, these are 16-year-old kids that themselves have thousands of followers on Twitter. Let's get them into the boardroom at Sony, and just the day before it comes out, why don't we just let them watch the DVD? So they do that. They handpick and invite these, his fan base, but the ones that are really doing most of the work on Twitter for him, bring them in. They watch it the day before the DVD's release. He then, once the DVD's finished, comes in and surprises them and says, "Hey, thanks so much for being here." They lose their mind.
Yeah.
They get a photo with him and the DVD. Those kids then push that on Twitter, and the thing goes double platinum without spending any money above the line.
I think the lesson here for small business owners is clearly create content that people are going to want to share. I think often, and maybe you guys have even fallen into the trap early days of social media, is just pushing stuff out there, hoping that it'll get traction, whereas what you find is that when you create something interesting, and us small business owners don't have the ability to go and create necessarily Carbecues or, have Reese Matston run into the boardroom. But that said, it's like, the question is, what could we create that's interesting that our fan base, that our best mates would share? And hopefully that's kind of this discussion stimulating that.
It's about sharing it, but it's also about what can you reward them with for using and talking about you on social media.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, if you're able to get, if this hashtag trends in Melbourne, maybe give me an example of a business.
Jim's mowing?
Jim's mowing. I think they're doing all right.
They're doing okay.
But if, say, you're a pizza shop, and if you're able to if everyone that comes
I'll
in...
use an old one, a previous listener who always gets a laugh, Big Richard Condoms. Hey, that'll put you on the spot.
That's perfect. But, Big Richard Condoms might have he might have some money that he's about to put into marketing. What's a prize element that he could give? So maybe
he's got packages. He's got the shag pack, the shag pack. He's got the Superman pack.
Perfect. Well, he can then say, anyone who retweets this goes in, and he might has a marketing message that is, here's our website link, or, here's our deal, here's our special. If you retweet this message, you go in the draw to win a lifetime supply of dingers or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So people just will retweet that. He can then just pick out a couple of people that have big Twitter followers, give them the product, give them a photo, give them some content that they want to share with their friends.
Yep.
Away you go.
Love the fact that you use the word dingers, Sammy. I haven't heard that one for a while. Hey, now, that's a good segue into idea/content creation, because, okay, get the whole idea of fans, not listeners. I think it's fantastic. Great new way of framing the people that you're selling to. Coming up with ideas, I know for a fact, is challenging, and I know that many small business owners even shy away from it. I was speaking at a conference recently, and a guy came up afterwards. He was an insurance salesman, and he'd come up. He just tapped me on the shoulder. He goes, "Can I share an idea with you?" So
you
clever.
said no?
No, I said no. He did anyway. I walked away. He was going, "Hey, no, I want to share the idea."
Yeah, got it. But you said tweet me.
Yeah, that's right. Just hashtag it, Tim.
Yeah.
Bo. No. But what he'd done was, not happy. I was going to say not happy Jan. Rhonda, the AAMI campaign Rhonda, overseas listeners, very famous Australian campaign for car insurance, set in Bali, and he had hired some Australian surfers to walk up and down the beach at Kuta with T-shirts saying Rhonda, Rhonda, Rhonda.
Oh, wow.
Handing out business cards offering insurance discounts, which maybe sailing a little bit close to the wind from a legal point of view, don't know. Let's not go there. Suffice to say, that is a big idea.
But what happened after that is, I don't know if you've been to Bali recently, but every bloke in Bali is now selling knockoff T-shirts of those and stickers.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I love Rhonda.
I love Rhonda.
Yeah.
But my point being, that's a big idea, and there's courage in big ideas. And I'm just interested, could you talk a bit about how you guys generate ideas? I had this chat to Jules Lund a few weeks ago, where Jules was explaining he literally carries his iPhone with him, and when stuff happens, he'll either record it or video it or jot it down.
It's annoying when you're having dinner with him.
I can imagine. Exactly right. Jules, that wasn't an idea. It was just me eating,
exactly.
like grow up. Tell us about idea development.
God, it's such a big thing. I guess I've spent most of my career working on that.
And probably never formalised it.
Yeah, look, do you know what? The book that I've read a lot in the field of creativity and the book that connected with me the most was Steal Like an Artist, which you've probably seen.
No, never heard of it.
Steal Like an Artist. So it's this guy, Austin Cleon? No. No. But Steal Like an Artist, it's really short. It's about how there's no such thing as an original idea. Every idea is a synthesis of different ideas.
Yep.
And that's in radio, you're constantly going stimulus in, what's my twist? There's the idea. So you open the paper and go
stimulus in, what's my idea?
What's my twist?
What's
my link? So
Hey guys, it's Timbo here. I have had to sneak out of the studio with Sammy because Sammy was just about to give an example and describe how he uses that process. But the example he gave was around a fairly sensitive topic. So instead of going with that, I'm going to show you how I've used that idea generating structure for a client who sits on my deep dive mastermind group. Now, the client is the Tasty Bird Cafe in Ararat in regional Victoria. So if you ever want a bloody good piece of chicken, I would head up and see Jason at the Tasty Bird Cafe. However, this is how we used it. Stimulus in was quite simple. Jason recognised that on a Wednesday, it was the middle of the week, or Wednesday is the middle of the week, and everyone's just hanging for the weekend, right? So that's the stimulus in. The link for the Tasty Bird Cafe to play on was the fact that they're already doing these wonderful deals called Tight Ass Tuesdays, right? So there's already some kind of marketing idea happening there. They have Tight Ass Tuesdays. So given that Wednesdays is generally referred to as hump day, that middle of the week, that hump day, the question is, what idea comes from that? And the idea that we came up with on the mastermind group was that they could do, the Tasty Bird Cafe could sell camel burgers on hump day. Okay, now that freaked Jason out a little bit because it was like, camel burgers? We don't do camel. People don't eat camel. But camel tastes like chicken, doesn't it? Okay, so what Jason ended up doing was not quite going to the point of camel burgers, but he's put these camel meals together, which involves chicken and lots of other yummy goodies, okay? And then he promotes it on his board, outside the shop, on flyers. He's doing a radio ad. He's even an idea came from another mastermind member, which was all about promoting it at childcare centres where mums were picking up their kids and on hump day just feeling like, tired, and it's like, oh, do I have to create another meal? So it was a great place to promote it. So stimulus in, what's the twist or the link in your business, and what idea comes from that? And so that's an example of how we use that idea generating structure that Sam's just described. Now you go and use it too. Let's go back into the studio and keep talking to the wonderful Sammy Cavanaugh. You've just given a structure to creating ideas. How then, because it'd be really easy to rain. It is really easy to rain on ideas, isn't it? It's like, or not have the confidence to go, you know what, that'd be really good. Let's try it. So,
do you know what? The best way to have good ideas is to have lots of ideas. Mm-hmm. And there's a great book called The Creative Habit, which I read recently from a woman whose name I can't remember either, but she's one of America's foremost ballet choreographers, and she just talks about, it's the habit. And my habit is I get into work, I turn my computer on, I grab the newspaper and I walk to a coffee shop that's a little way away to get a coffee. And it's that walk where I'm looking at the news and that's my habit of, I don't sort of come back from the coffee shop without 5 or 6 ideas. Mm-hmm. And that's my habit. And because I've been doing it for 10 years, it does become automatic. Mm-hmm. And I think that and most of those ideas are shit, but it's the best way to have.
Filter? Where is the filter that says, oh, hang on, is it just a gut feeling, or do you have a set of criteria that says it ticks those 3 boxes, so we're going to do it? Do you look for other people to go, Sammy, you're a genius? No. Where's the filter? There's got to be something.
Yeah, but radio is a team sport, and that's what's lucky is you pitch an idea in a planning meeting and you know pretty quickly if the room catches on fire or if no one cares. And sometimes you go, nah, I reckon there's more in it. I'll put that away and I'll pitch it another day.
So that is gut feeling.
Yeah, it is gut feeling. But again, the more ideas you have, the better chance there is of having a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think someone said that once and I've stolen it from them. But yeah, the best way to have a good idea is to have
original idea, Sammy.
But the best way to have a good idea is to have lots of ideas.
Right. Good idea has 1,000 fathers. A bad idea is
an orphan.
Correct. Thank you. Drum roll. Cymbals. Something. You've got to have something there.
Yeah. Drum roll.
No, don't go the drum roll. You can't do a drum roll after the fact.
So maybe
that would be weird.
Here we go.
Yeah. What do you got?
So give me your line again.
A good idea has 1,000 fathers. A bad idea
is an orphan.
Oh, that is good. Gee, I love the cymbals. Sammy, just want to finish off talking about social media. You've touched on social media. Social media is an ongoing struggle for small businesses.
See, that's why is it a struggle?
Hang on. Well, by you saying that, you almost
pisses
imply...
me off.
What, you find it easy?
No, it's not that it's easy, but it's like... It's got to be the greatest gift for any small business. It's free.
Oh, hang on. That is a ridiculous. No, you can't. Yeah, it is. It is free, and and many small businesses go, great. It's the silver bullet. It's the panacea. It's free, and it's an opportunity to get my message out.
Correct.
But it's just because it doesn't make it good. You know, sometimes you're better off spending money on stuff to market your business than just going down the free path.
But it's not an either or scenario. But
no,
what I get frustrated at is people struggling with it, because I think if you think you're struggling, like, it's okay to not know about it. It's okay to go, wow, I've got a lot to learn about that. But if you're already going, I struggle with that, then I think you're starting from a bad place, because
some avoid it. So there's many reasons why many small businesses don't do it, or if they do it, they get it wrong. You know, it's not often where I meet a small business is absolutely crushing their social media presence. I interviewed a company a few months ago, Black Milk Clothing, makes leggings, absolutely crushing it with their social media.
Crushing it's a good thing?
Crushing is a great thing. Nailing it.
Yep.
Okay? That's groove talk.
It's young person talk.
Young person talk.
Stay away from that.
Correct. It'll go nowhere. It'll lead to tears. So, so Black Milk are really doing great stuff, but I don't see that very often. I think what we forget, and clearly you guys must be nailing it. I look forward to hearing how your shows are using it. Suffice to say, well, let me just say, social media is people having conversations online. That's how I define it. And if you kind of look at it that way, forget hashtags, forget retweets, forget likes, forget all the tech talk, and go, it's just people talking online. Cool. So therefore, when you talk to someone, you want to offer good quality content in the hope that you'll engage them in a conversation, and the conversation continues, and at some point they go, really like you, what do you got to sell? That type of thing, right?
Yep.
I think many businesses kind of go straight to the sell. They forget the foreplay type stuff and go straight for the you know
Can I
what.
give you an example of that?
Go.
The moment the penny dropped for me was I used to see our Facebook page with the show that I probably spend most of my time on, the Fifi and Jules show that you referenced before. I used to see Facebook as an opportunity to promote our content, to go, hey, we've done this on the radio show, get it on Facebook and see if we can get more people looking at it, because we've already made it and it's free. So use Facebook as a promotional vehicle. And then there was a moment where this year, was it this year? When were the Olympics? This year or last year?
This year.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So as we're preparing for the London Olympics, Byron, who's the anchor of the show, put a helmet, a little GoPro stuck on his head, and we took a little digital camera, video camera on his head. And
I'm trying to get the owner of GoPro on this show, but he's not responding to my emails.
Well, you should get your Twitter community to make it happen.
Correct.
So we took a photo of that and we put it on Facebook, and we just said, hey, if we can get 10,000 likes on this photo, we will make Byron wear this stupid thing on his head the entire time we're in London. Right. And then we're not in the habit of begging for likes. I think you've got to use that tool really sparingly. But it was a funny photo. Byron looked super uncomfortable, and Byron photographs really well. He's a good looking guy. So we pushed that. It got 37,000 likes in about 8 hours, which put it into the news feeds of 1 million people. Because when on Facebook, your analytics, it'll tell you how many news feeds.
Yeah.
So 1 million people, right? At that moment, I went, that's more people than are listening to that radio break.
Yeah.
So more people are experiencing that content on Facebook than are listening to the radio show.
And then that seeing that photo drives people back to the show.
Because
So
what they
can
were
I
able to do is affect change. They were able to have an impact. And then the video that we made from the helmet cam on Byron's head for the week in London, we pushed that back to that conversation feed. So those people got a payoff a week later for, hey, thanks for liking the photo.
Yeah,
we
right.
made it happen. Here's the video. Good on you. Let's stitch Byron up again.
I want to pull you up, though, because your kind of observation of, like, why do they find social media so hard, which is kind of, not, you didn't say that, but kind of what you inferred a little bit. Fair?
No, my frustration is if people, I think it's fine to be overwhelmed and it's fine to go, I don't know anything about this, but if you're not a small business going, this is an opportunity that I must understand, then I think just pack up and go home.
Put it this way. So, as I say when I talk about this stuff, social media isn't going away. Facebook might not be here in 5 years' time, but it'll be replaced with another social media channel that'll give us the opportunity to have conversations online. So, absolutely get in there and embrace it. I don't want listeners... there'll be some listeners right now going, yeah, but Sam's responsible for shows that have interesting people, funny people, with the ability to walk into a studio like we have right now and literally hit record, create content, have marketing budgets, go out, do fun stuff. They have the ability to do that, whereas small business owners, and what I love is you've shared a concept earlier of how to generate ideas, which is great, because that is the solution, is like to have a process of generating content.
I was having a conversation with a mate who runs he's a mortgage broker, and we had this very conversation. He's like, Facebook, mate, what do I do? Like, I'm being told I got to get into it. I don't know what it is. And the first thing you have to do is you can't be a spectator to this stuff. You got to just pick, if you can't, you got to pick either Facebook or Twitter or both.
Yeah. LinkedIn, YouTube.
Whatever. Just pick one channel and you got to interact with it. You won't understand it reading a book or being a spectator.
You can listen first. You can get in and watch the conversation before you open up a...
But I also think there's a level of, particularly with Twitter and Facebook, I mean, I'm on Twitter and I've had to develop content and send tweets just to get my head around it. Otherwise, you're just a spectator. You're not a player. So that's the first thing. And then I said to him, and he's as I said, a mortgage broker. You're in finance. Like, you have information that people need. So you've just got to write a blog. And if I saw in my Facebook feed, I don't want to use his name. Let's pretend his name is John Smith. John Smith, interest rate. Smithy. John Smith, blog update. The Reserve Bank has dropped the interest rate. If you've got a mortgage, here's 3 things you should do now. I'm reading that because I have a mortgage and I want that information. And he's like, yeah, no, I do stuff like that, but I just send it as an email to a couple of mates. And I'm like, why would you do it as an email? If you put it on Facebook, I'll like that. I'll send that to my 400 friends.
Well, even better, what you do is you put it on your website and then grab the link and put it on Facebook, because then people click on it and
100%. Or Facebook,
website.
here's 2 for the third one. Click into my website.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it doesn't matter if you're selling fish and chips or interest rates, or
you don't sell interest rates,
or dingers.
I suppose
or
you do.
Dingers. Like, whatever your industry is, like whatever your field is, someone somewhere wants that knowledge or wants that product or is interested in what you do. And so you don't have to be. That's the other great thing about. And I know you're a big fan of Seth Godin, but his new book.
So funny. I was just thinking that we're all weird.
We're all weird. That's
how good is that
the
book?
Best. Do you want to explain it to people?
Oh well, it's based on the premise that. We are all weird. There is someone out there somewhere that is interested in something micro and niche, just as you are.
And that's what the internet has given every one of those small communities an audience and a place to connect.
So how does that impact, and let's finish up on this discussion because it was kind of where I did want to finish anyway, because podcasting plays to Seth's concept of we're all weird, because I can go and create a podcast about, Turkish coffee. And there will be an audience in the world who just want to hear every week about Turkish coffee, right? You are producing shows that go out to the masses. So it's very, very hard to niche it down. Is that a threat to what you guys are doing? Because I can I just add, I listen to a podcast. I love Green Guide Letters.
It's
a great podcast.
Yeah.
Listeners, don't listen to that. Keep listening to Small Business Big Marketing. But I listen to that at the expense probably of tuning into a show that you produce. I still love you as a friend.
Thank you.
My pleasure. But is that a threat to you guys?
Do you know what? I think where media, all media is going through that revolution now, and I think that, you know, in Australia, you would, this might not mean much to international listeners, but, you know, our biggest newspaper company sacked 1,900 people this year. Our biggest TV network was in debt $4 billion. So I think that
something's happening.
That revolution we're living through it. I think there will always be a need for advertisers. Like, there will always be a mass audience, and there will always be people who want to belong to the mass and want to go and want to listen to the top 10 songs. And but you know, that is a smaller percentage of the market now, but it's still there. You know, there is still an audience for the master chefs, the blocks, the voice. But for every voice, there's also, you know, a karaoke competition where people can sing in Dutch, do rap songs. Like, you know, so I think that as exciting and as a bigger opportunity as there are for niche audiences, I think there will always be a need for mass. Because the mass, in some sense, defines what the niche is. Wow. That's deep. Thanks, man.
Sammy, did video kill the radio star?
No. Cocaine did.
Sam Cavanaugh, executive producer of the Austereo network. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Tim.
See you, mate. What about that? Hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed doing that interview and bringing it to you. If you enjoyed it, if you've got some feedback, head over to the show notes at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, episode 117. Leave a comment. Say anything. I love getting feedback because it means I know what's working and what's not working. So please go ahead and do that. And if you love the show, head over to iTunes and leave a listener review as well. And thank you to all those that have done that. Next week, we have got Richard Everson from the country guest house called Shoneg, and it's an award-winning country guest house. And Richard is doing some great marketing. Great example of small business, big marketing. You know, it's not always about getting the Mia Friedmans and the Sam Cavanaghs of the world on the show. It's also about getting those little guys on the show who are punching far, far, far above their marketing weight. And next week's interview is a great example of a small business doing exactly that. So until next time, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for being part of the tribe. Don't forget to head over to Meetup. Go to the show notes, leave a comment, do all that type of stuff. Get involved because this show is here to make your marketing rock. See you next time.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.